So I'm Professor Atau Tanaka from Goldsmiths in London, and I'll be presenting the Immersive Pipeline. It's a project that we worked on with the RA Blanca Regina and our programmer Pierre Tardif. So some of you may have seen me in the demo session. I was the one who put the virtual reality headset on and go like this, and then start to want to walk around and bump into people. Because I wanted to see about the spatial representation and all that, but nonetheless I'd just bump into the table and so forth. And so this, for me, brings me back to the original motivation for doing this project, is to say virtual reality is great, but it can be isolating. It might isolate us from the world and the people around us. So I was interested to take this challenge of immersive experience and make it visceral and social. Okay? And so we have a space in Goldsmiths that the EPSRC funded with a capital equipment fund called this Sonics Immersive Media Lab, SIML, that we used for this project. But we're not the only such facility. Here in the new Creative Media Labs, we've just seen surround video projection space, and there are others like the SAT in Montreal, the Recombinant Media Labs in San Francisco. And the thing is, they're all in different formats, shapes, and aspect ratios. So part of the challenge was to translate formats, and then to think about production pipelines to facilitate artists creating works for these different formats. Okay? So to do so, we did what everyone else did, run some workshops. So in our workshops, we held them in our SIML space. Okay? And we wanted to bring together not just the latest technologies in doing this, but look back at the considerable history that we have since the 60s and 70s of this area called expanded cinema. We did invite as partners and presenters to this workshop the people that run the other venues internationally. The RML Cine Chamber from San Francisco, the new 6-sided Hexadome from Berlin, alongside tech companies like NSC Creative from the National Space Center in Leicester, and the publishers of the Mad Mapper projection mapping software. That was in February. In April, we ran a live performance in our space. I performed. We invited international artists Alba Corral and Alex Augier, who are on tour and on their way to Montreal to perform in the Dome, to translate their work to our rectangle as a sort of avant-premiere. Brian Dunphy, a PhD student in our group, presented alongside to create in this way a kind of a horizontal curatorial program that didn't differentiate the student work from the international touring artists' work. So I'll show a little 2-minute video, that's perfect, and then wrap up. So hopefully if you click it, click again. Oh, no.
What we're trying to develop is an immersive pipeline of different formats. So as described earlier, this is taking a 10 screens thing, which we have to kind of change the bandwidth up here so you can see it clear, and get a little idea of a student coming to us back in the early 2000s and going, hey, I'd like to work with this spatial cinema apparatus.
It's a bit like a lost in translation thing where you've got one shape and then you try and make it into another language, another shape, and then suddenly the aesthetics change and something doesn't work anymore, and you didn't know that because you've only just done it. And so this isn't just about adapting technology to change shape. But it's about having some sense of how the aesthetics might work and not work.
I was fascinated in how moving imagery can create poetry or poetic moments. Of course, this is wonderful because you create naturally a big, immersive, poetic moment.
Okay. So we were very lucky already to have the Simul facility in which to carry out our Immersive Pipeline project. And so we were able to focus on artists' needs. If they're going to different facilities, they need access to these spaces. To be able to book time in this space can be a very, very difficult issue. So one thing we did, actually, and we should have brought it to the black box demo today, is we made a 1 to 10 scale version. We've got the Simul as a mini simulator, right? And with 6 Pico projectors, and I wish I brought that, but I missed an email for the call for black box demos. So with that, we wanted to propose a certain production pipeline to support a diversity of styles, whether it's cinematic, whether it's procedural and graphics-based, the different kinds of aesthetics that our artists talk about, and ways to bridge then the acts of prototyping, pre-production, and performance, not as separate steps, one done by a technology company, performance done by an artist, but people who are producing new works for this realm mix these 3 areas. They're no longer separate silos. So for our follow-on fund, we're wanting to bring the Simul out of Simul, not just as a simulator, but we will be working with the Albany Theatre in Deptford, if the funding comes through, and the Old Baths in Hackney Wick, to take this technology out into public venues and to think about the configurations and necessities in order to do that. Thank you.